right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Catherine. I'm a research librarian here at the Mount Prospect Public Library. I want to welcome you to tonight's program, Keeping Your Garden Beautiful and Productive. We are here with the wonderful members of the Garden Club of Mount Prospect, who are going to be our presenters for tonight's program. They are going to be talking tonight all about garden maintenance. So thank you so much all for being here and sponsoring this program. I think that's all I have. I want to welcome you again to tonight's program, and I will now turn it over to Jeannie, who is the president of the Garden Club of Mount Prospect.
Hello, everyone. We're so glad you're here. Welcome. We are, as she said, we're all from the Garden Club of Mount Prospect, and we love to talk about plants. So that's what we're going to do tonight. We planned a program that we hope will be helpful to you and in your own garden. As she said, the program will last about 45 minutes, and then we'll have plenty of time for questions. I'm not going to talk too much about the club, but if you are interested in the club, there are some handouts on the table that will give you information. And also, I do want to mention our plant sale is coming up a week from Saturday on the 17th. It'll be on the campus of the Historical Society, and there will be a lot of plants at a reasonable price, and they all come from our gardens. So we've been digging up our extras and putting them in nice pots for you. So I'm going to start us off. One of the things that's good to do, especially at the beginning of the growing season, is to evaluate your garden. Go out, look around, think about how things have gone. Some things to consider might be soil, for one thing. Are there any of your garden beds that might need some compost if the same things have been growing there for a while? And soil is important to the health of your plants, right? And as you're doing this, it'd be a good idea to make a list. Another thing for this time of year is pruning. And pruning is always easier before the plant gets totally leafed out because you can see the branches much better. That pruning, however, does not apply to plants who bloom in the spring. You do not want to be pruning in the spring any plant that's supposed to bloom. Later in the program, you'll hear quite a bit about pruning. Another thing to look at is where's your sun and where's your shade? Now, it does move during the day, but it's a good idea to know, for example, how many hours of sun do your beds get? And you can actually check each hour and write down if that area is still sunny so that you know how many hours. It's recommended a plant that needs sun get at least 6 hours of sun. Another thing that we do in the spring is to thin things out. When they get too crowded, I just finished dividing my garden flocks and separating them. Some of them will go to the plant sale, but I just spread them out. They were so crowded, the air wasn't getting in. Another thing that needs thinning often, as you probably know, is hostas. And those clumps get pretty hard if you don't thin them out now and then. And you can move things too to different places. If they're not doing well, this is a time to move them. My astilbe did not bloom at all last year. I have 4 plants and they did not bloom. So I think it's from dryness. And as you know, we're in climate change, and that has changed our watering. So that's another thing you might want to think about. how are you going to get those plants the water they need? All right. Those are beginning thoughts, and now I'm going to turn it over to Sharon. Oh, sorry. I forgot to show you. Isn't that a nice garden? That's what I just talked about. Okay, Sharon.
I know. Didn't you see me going?
Better? Okay. I'm going to briefly cover many points. Many will be explained more in depth later in the program, particularly pruning, dividing, transplanting, fertilizing, pests and diseases, mulch, and watering. So here we go with garden cleanup. Clean your tools. It's always a good idea if you didn't do it in the fall of last year. We have a really good handout with a short, I think it's a YouTube, if I'm not mistaken.
It's on our website.
It's on, I'm sorry.
Club of Mount Prospect's website.
It's on our website. Thank you. And it's a good step-by-step, easy way to do it. It refers you to some good products to buy to do it. So I think that would be great. Here we go. Clear debris, leaves, twigs, etc. And if you're like me and you live near a school, you're also going to pick up Starbucks cups and candy wrappers and so on, but it's all there. Clean it all up. Prune plants and shrubs and cut back fountain grasses if left up for winter interest, and clean up that dead plant material, the twigs and so on that's around. Okay, then you're going to edge your garden beds. They look so pretty when you do that. It's a great start. Pull weeds while small. Be careful not to pull some perennials that pop up a little later in the season. If in doubt, leave them up for a while until you can identify them. All of us experienced gardeners have pulled perennials that we thought were weeds. It happens, so then we trot off to our favorite nursery and buy it again. Divide and transplant or share perennials with fellow gardeners or donate them to our plant sale. Again, which occurs the Saturday of the village garage sale. Check for pests and diseases. Clean your garden structures. This one makes me happy. Angels, fairies, puppies, kitties, all these cute things we put in our garden. I give them a good bath and they look so pretty. They look clean and brand new again. Plant your spring bulbs and you'll be extremely happy at this time of year. Here's my favorite part. Go shopping. Add new perennials and annuals. We're so lucky. We have so many great garden centers along with the big box of Home Depot and Costco and all these places. So there's beautiful places to shop, be it Pesci's or Lurvy's or the Chalet. So just go shopping, bust the budget. Apply fertilizer and add mulch. Now we go into summer. Pull the weeds while they're small, and then pull more weeds. And after that, you're going to pull more weeds. Pinch back your mums and your late perennials, such as, your mums and late perennials, and then you could also do your asters, your balloon flowers, bee balm, goldenrod, phlox, Russian sage, and there's more than that. Deadhead your faded flowers for a second bloom to prevent certain plants from reseeding themselves, unless you want them to reseed themselves because you want more. That's your choice. Most plants are, whether dead or getting a little unmanageable, can be trimmed. It helps the plant to redirect its energy into growing new flowers, and you're going to get a second bloom. Go at it a little at a time. Don't overdo it. Again, Check for pests and diseases. This is the time that maybe on your, which one is it that you get I'm trying,
Davis.
no, the milk,
Milkweed.
no, I can't. Sorry, everybody, I'm discussing with my garden partners. Anyway, it'll come back later and then I'll stand up and blurt it out, okay? All righty. Check for pests and diseases, which I'm trying to think of. Add mulch if needed. Again, it's summer. Water, 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 and then water some more. Best to do it early morning or dusk. Now we go to fall maintenance. We're going to clean the debris again, the leaves, the twigs, etc. You're going to amend the soil. You're going to leave the leaves you would like to. You're going to add compost if you want. Again, here's an opportunity to plant spring blooming bulbs. Here we go again. Divide and transplant or share perennials and add mulch. Okay, so now we dovetail right into dividing and transplanting, which I call divide and conquer. When, why, and how. When, the general rule is spring, summer bloomers should be divided in the fall, about 6 weeks before the first frost, and fall bloomers in spring after frost. But dividing spring and summer bloomers in spring or early summer works very well. Overcast day is best. Water the day before for easy lifting of the plant. I can testify to this. I was doing a lot of this today. It works. It was easier to pull it out because it was wet, and as it became somewhat overcast, it was great. Wasn't a hot day. Why are we doing this? Health and rejuvenation, particularly when the plant dies in the center and produces smaller plants, smaller flowers, and blooms less, or the plant becomes too big for the space. Okay, this one. I had this today. I did this. One of my fountain grasses, beautiful green all around, all brown in the center. You can see this one needs, I lifted it out. I ended up with 4 more plants. It's good. How to divide plants. Dig out the entire clump with a sharp shovel and be generous with the soil, but remove the excess soil and long roots. You can cut the top back a bit. Remember, once it's planted, we want to send the energy back down to the roots. So give it a good start. I requested that that tool be put up here. That is called the root slayer. I'm telling you, when I lifted that fountain grass today, and did I hear somebody say, I want one of those? And I did a big hosta. I was demonstrating it to a friend of mine. You can't believe how well it works. I mean, with the serrated edges, it makes it so much easier. You can get it, of course, anywhere, Amazon, anywhere. I got mine at Ace Hardware. The guy who brought it out to me at Ace Hardware said, is this a garden tool or are you buying a weapon? And I said, that depends on the day. So,
It's called a slayer? Yeah, that's an name.
yeah, that's the name. Is it a Fiskars? But no, is it a Fiskars?
Fiskars or not, but if you look for root slayer, that comes up.
It comes up on Amazon, right? Yeah, and I just happened to get mine at Ace Hardware. Okay. I get no commission for this. I think I should, but, okay, so here we are. Now, this is interesting. Check your plants that you pull out for jumping worms, which will be discussed more in depth shortly. New thing, new critter, around pest, whatever we want to call it. We'll talk about that. Anyway, lay out your plants on the tarp or the sidewalk. Divide in half or thirds or more with a knife or a spade or a root slayer. Divide into healthy, smaller clumps. Please note, oops, I just said it again. Please note, we included my favorite tool. Okay. We're going to move on to transplanting. Best to transplant on the same day they're divided or place in pots with fresh soil to plant later or share. Dig your hole about twice the size of the plant. Keep the soil in the bucket. Amend the soil around the plant with organic fertilizer and backfill with soil. Water generously and cover with mulch. Here we go. Has anybody seen these jumping worms? I keep asking around. Okay. They're somewhat new to Illinois, I believe. So after you divide the plants, rinse your roots in water to remove any remaining soil, and it removes the worms and the eggs. Rinsing the roots will hydrate the plant while you are potting. Any worms that are removed should be placed in a plastic bag, tied, and thrown in the trash. You'll notice our lovely earthworms, this doesn't quite show, but you know how they're reddish, brownish in color? These earthworms are gray. So that's how, oh, I'm sorry, the Asian jumping worms. These worms can destroy a garden or lawn because they eat the roots. I just said they're gray in color, whereas our lovely, helpful earthworms are reddish brown. I personally love my earthworms because they contribute to nutrient cycling, aeration, and soil porosity. Be kind to the earthworms, but destroy the jumping worms. Jumping worms are not friends to our lawns and gardens. As I mentioned before, it doesn't appear that any of us have seen them locally. I saw them in a lawn in Downers Grove. They were weird and amazing as they would pop out of the ground and almost do a dance, and they covered half the lawn. There were so many. So we do have to be careful because we don't want to send these guys out in our lawns and gardens.
Yeah. How do you describe later? Later we'll talk about that.
Plastic bag, tie it up, trash can. Okay, and Terry is going to talk to us now about pruning and fertilizing, right?
That's right.
This.
Sorry. I do scream quite loud. Having 4 kids, I learned how to make sure they heard what I said. Anyway, right now, this is what I have up in the front. You could see, I always forget the name of this. Kathy, you tell me again what's blooming in the front. I always forget.
No, I don't remember that.
Anyway, some of that will be at our plant sale because I've got some of it in containers. The alliums haven't opened yet. What?
Sweet William.
Thank you. That's called Sweet William. I don't know why it's a name I just don't ever remember. And there are numerous other things right now farther up in front of the porch are pulmonaria and brunera. Those are all blooming. After that, something else will be there. So every 2 weeks, you have to come to see the front of my house because it changes. The clicker, I need that.
It's a good trip.
Okay, wrong way. Okay, why do we prune plants? Plants need to be pruned sometimes just for the height You don't want them to be 20 feet tall. You would rather keep them within the 8 and 10 feet. Sometimes they have dead or overgrown branches. If they come out too far, if the branches are dead, you want stuff cut out that you don't really want to see again. When you prune plants, though, some of them at the wrong time. Right now, you're not going to prune things like the lilacs. Mine haven't opened yet. I don't know about anybody else's, but viburnum has opened, but those are ones you don't want to prune at this point. So you have to be careful. A lot of the trees and shrubs now will be blooming on last year's kind of wood, so you don't want that to be cut out at this point. There are different types of pruning. This is pruning I did last week. On the top left, this you can see the dead branch that was way in the middle. Sometimes you need only to cut down what's up on the top. That turned out I had to go way to the base in order to get, that whole section was completely dead. So you can see a hole in my, in that shrub, but it'll come back. I'm not really that worried about it. Once I also trim farther in the season up on the top, it'll round it all out. But you don't want to leave that. On the bottom, I think I'm losing this plant. You can see this is a 9 bark. It had so much dead wood. And on the right is what it looks like now, which is about 1/3 of the original size 2 years ago. So I think I'm losing that 9 bark, but I did cut out what I needed to. Later on, I will do crown thinning of the bush up on the top right. Sometimes you need to do crown raising, which is some of the bottom. On one of my healthy 9 barks, it was so crowded at the bottom that I cut out a whole bunch of it. Not only that, I didn't want my neighbor to end up having this bush hanging all over. So you have to kind of decide what you're going to prune and what you're not going to prune. The dead wood has to come out only to save the plant. Disease stuff, if you see you have mold or anything, cut all that out as soon as you can, because it's only going to spread and cause more trouble. When you prune, okay, this says remove the unwanted shoots. You want to control the size. Some of the ornamental things are more, you are just to look better, not necessarily to the health of the plant. Some things though, like we had lilac bushes at our church, and they looked horrible because they had so much dead wood in the center that we spent weeks trying to get all the dead wood from the center out for it to get the sun and the light into the middle of it. Also, I found out a couple years ago, my spirea plants had so much dead wood, and I tried to get inside of it and cut it out and cut it out. Well, I watched a YouTube, and the guy said in March, cut your spirea bushes down to 2 to 3 inches. And my bushes are absolutely gorgeous. And I wanted to do that at our church because we have a bunch of them and they all look sad. But I tried it one year in my yard before I dared to hack all the stuff off at church, and everything looks gorgeous. So you kind of have to, I use the YouTube a lot. I really do. Years ago, I'd get books out of the library and read all this stuff. Now I usually go to the computer. But that was a really good one for my spirarias. They look better than they had for years because I now cut them down to 2 to 3 inches.
Rabbits.
Oh, my rabbits eat my hostas. They're already at it now. Deadheading is something that if you have perennials, there are a few, on my handouts, there should be things that you should deadhead and not, and I will go over some of this here. When you're deadheading, you want to cut down most of the time to the first leaf that looks healthy. You can go farther down if you have like a bud coming, because then usually it'll sprout out and you'll have two instead of one, and it'll definitely help the plant. You can go all the way down to the base of a plant, of a perennial, and deadhead it that way if you want to go that far down. You don't want the big growth, but any of those places are really healthy. The one thing, if you have roses though, when you deadhead to where you have 5 leaves. That is the general rule. If you deadhead it higher than that, usually they're not going to separate and give you more blooms. So watch, very often there'll be 3 leaves, and then if you go down farther, it'll be 5, and deadheaded at that point. One of the things that I learned at one of the classes I took at the Botanic Gardens, I was deadheading perennial geraniums, which are called cranesbill. That's their normal thing. And I'd sit there and cut all these stupid little flowers. The lady at the Botanic Garden goes, pull the plant up, hack it off, it'll come back and bloom. After I spent hours trying to cut these stupid flowers off. And you know what? She's right. It comes back and they bloom. So there are a lot of things that are a little different. You wouldn't be deadheading a cranesbill like I used to do because it really was a lot of time and a lot of work. And you want to deadhead because you don't want the stuff to go to seed. Once it goes to seed, you aren't going to get new flowers again. All that energy is going into making the seed instead of making new flowers. And it also helps make the roots grow deeper. Oop. These are some of the flowers that are really good for deadheading. I sit at my son's house because his wife makes all these pretty planters, except she never deadheads anything. So I find a seat close to the planters and I sit there and I deadhead. It's just become a habit, a bad habit. My husband laughs at me. There are some things you don't want to deadhead. Nothing's going to happen. If you cut the top of Cosmos, oh no, I'm sorry. These are still good ones. I thought I was on the next slide. My Weigelia, I even trimmed that back. It will never bloom as heavily after your first set of flowers, but then after that, it'll start really coming back. My climbing hydrangeas, you need to do that after they finish flowering. Don't do it in August or September because you will not see this happen the following year. That is something that you have to do after it flowers. The next slide over is Helianthus. And that it'll start blooming probably in a month. That'll go until November if you deadhead it. And that's a pretty rotten picture I took of it, but usually it's very pretty. The next one is a Rosa Sharon. That one you have to cut after it's finished blooming. Don't cut it now, or you are not going to get flowers like that. That particular bush cross-pollinated. It has white and purple flowers. And yes. Yes.
October?
Oh, yeah, October. Yeah. Rosa Sharon, you'll be cutting in October. No, you need to look up hydrangeas. There are different kind of hydrangeas, microphylla, oak leaf hydrangeas, endless summer ones. Look them up because they are all different. Yeah, it just does not work for all of them. And what do I have? Oh, I have a coreopsis on the end that has a butterfly on it. The coreopsis will bloom and bloom and bloom, probably through September if you keep deadheading it. Otherwise, forget it. It will not do it. These are ones, don't even try to deadhead them because you're not going to get a new flower. The foxglove is hollyhocks. Sweet William. I remember trying to plant Sweet William when I was a new gardener. And I planted it, and never would it rebloom. And I thought something was wrong with me. Well, I didn't know it wasn't going to rebloom. It's just the way it was. Columbine, I usually let it go to seed. It tends not to come back really well for me unless I let the seeds drop. So I just kind of leave it until the seed pods have dried out and the seeds have fallen, and I get more out of it. And poppies, don't even cut a poppy to bring it in your house because it'll last about 2 hours. It's pretty ugly after that. And peonies, of course, you got to leave. But those are ones that you just don't deadhead. Fertilizers, there are 17 different nutrients that the plants need. About the only thing that we usually add are the nitrogen, the phosphorus, and the potassium. Those are things that come in the fertilizers. They come in organic fertilizers and inorganic fertilizers. The organic ones are stuff that like cow manure, peat moss, compost. I use compost a lot because I have a composter and it's just my thing to do. I do have to say though, before I put my vegetables in, I do kind of sprinkle granular, slow release granules for fertilizer, and that pretty much gets me through the summer. You don't want to put too much fertilizer or you're going to kill your plant. The plants can't take that much of that potassium and nitrogen, and it's just not good. Plus, it'll also run off. It'll run off into our water supplies. We do not need that poison in the water supplies in the rivers and the wells. So watch how much you end up putting in. These are the fertilizer numbers that you will see at the store. And they're different types. The ones that are 10, 10, 10 is what I put in at the beginning of the summer. Before my mulch goes down, I walk through my yard and sprinkle all the granules around. It's and they're slow release, so you know that all of it isn't concentrated and going to run out right away into the ground soil. It's going to slowly give you different nutrients as the summer goes by. If you want a lot of flowers and fruit, sometimes around trees especially, or some of the hydrangeas like that, they like that a lot of phosphorus in it. So you'd pick something that has the 20 in the middle. And some things that, like I found out last summer, which I did not know, geraniums do better if you give it the 20, 10, 10, because you get your flower and the leaf growth, which you want both in your different, in the, not the hydrangeas.
Did you say,
What?
did you say geranium?
Yes, thank you. Oh my God. I'm sorry, my mind is going all over the place. I also gave a handout that says when to prune different plants and a handout that tells you the best fertilizer to use for different plant. And that should all be with your handouts. The one thing that you do need for container stuff is a water soluble solution, because none of these granules should go close to the stems. And when you have a potted plant, a container plant, there is no way you can keep the granules away from the stems. You really need to use a water soluble fertilizer for that. And the other thing is, if you are going to be putting new granules of fertilizer between your vegetables, don't put it up to where the roots are. Put it in the middle of a row. You don't want it that close. Or even if you're feeding a plant that's this big, the roots are this big. You want it around where the roots are. You don't want it in the center. So watch where you fertilize things. It's really important. That's it.
Hi, I'm Jenny. I'm going to talk about container gardening, the smaller, whatever. If you have containers that you've used before, make sure they're clean because they don't want to have any dirt going to the new plants. If you're going to use soil from last year, excuse me, from last year, take out half of it and put in new soil so it regenerates and everything is better. And also, if you're starting, whoops, I'm not doing my little clicker, sorry. I've fallen down on the job. This goes this way. Thank you. We had our teacher over there that told us the right thing. Okay, if you're starting with soil, you don't want to have your pot completely packed down with dirt. You can put something in the bottom like twigs or pine cones or something to fill it up so it's not so heavy and you don't hurt yourself moving those pots around. Somebody else had put in shoes, but I would think depends on how heavy those shoes are. So if you're going to put in heavy shoes, that's not a wise thing. So don't do that. Okay. All right, let's see. In the watering, when you're watering containers, you're going to have to water more often than you would water in the garden because the water will, better to have containers with holes in the bottom so the water can come out. You know that you've put in enough water. It's just, Sharon always says, water, water, water. It's a good idea to make sure you get everything wet because they will dry out a lot faster than things in a regular garden. Naturally pours, yes, yes. Remember, the water is lost a lot faster from the ground. I just said that in a different way. There we go. Fertilizing, you should fertilize in your container as well. Make sure your plants are healthy and they last. So you can, I think water soluble is what Terry was saying, which is a good idea because you can't get it around, so you can spray around that. So that would be good. They do grow faster because they have smaller soil. So you just have to really watch them. That's, I think, an important thing. And you're going to deadhead and prune just like you would. You'll see better blooms and so forth if you deadhead and get rid of the bad stuff and put the blooms will come out. They also, excuse me, they will also overcrowd your containers. So if you prune, then you'll have more room. Prune to room, that's hard to say. I don't know. Yeah. Also, talking about weeding, there's always weeds. They'll get into your container garden. Pests will get into your container. I know our squirrels are trained. If I'm doing digging or something somewhere, they need to make sure I'm doing it correctly so they come right behind me and dig right where I have been. So you just have to make sure they do get into everything. Also, make sure you have the correct sun or shade depending on where you're moving. But that's one thing about containers. You can move them where more sun is or more shade is. So that's pretty helpful. It's pretty hard to move a whole garden, sun shade. And then you have, you can put a lot of things in containers, not just flowers. You can put in herbs. You can put in, I said, my husband has planted potatoes, sweet potatoes and regular potatoes in 5-gallon buckets. And at the end of the season, when we get the potatoes, we dump the soil into our regular garden and you just have everything. So I'll have him come over and do that for you if you want. He's not here this evening. That's why I can say that. So but, herbs are really helpful. I think they look nice in gardens and they add fragrance as well. All righty. Thank you.
How's that? Okay. I'm going to talk about one of the, probably the least dramatic things here, but mulch and weeds. Okay. First of all, just really a quick run by on mulch. Mulch is a simple and effective way to conserve moisture in the soil. It helps to reduce evaporation, keeps roots cool, and suppresses weed growth. It is a means to prevent seeds and weeds from germinating and stops the slow growth of seeds and slows the growth, and slows down the growth of seeds that have begun to germinate. There's two types, which I'll be getting into. There's organic, such as bark nuggets, wood chips, cypress mulch, just to name three. By the way, the organic mulches and wood chips break down eventually, maybe straws and other things. And mulch reduces the need for frequent watering. That's another advantage. Okay. Now, probably the most common that you've seen probably is the bark nuggets, which are usually come in pretty good sized chunks, and they're great for flower beds. Usually the wood chips and the cypress mulch and the barks, and even some of the non-organic type of materials, such as the stones and so forth, would have a landscape fabric as a barrier. Lay it down first and then put your mulches and the other things on top of it. And that helps prevent weed growth, particularly. And at any rate, the bark nuggets, they come in different colors, a variety of colors. Hardwood, most of it's hardwood. Wood chips are pretty common. You can usually get these at your local public works. I know right here in Mount Prospect, when they cut down a tree or they've shrubs and stuff, you see the grinder, and they take all of that and they take it to the city works, and you can go in there and get these wood chips. It's interesting to note that at our house we had a willow tree on the parkway, by the way, that was 19 feet in circumference. It was planted by the original owner who got it, and it was big as my thumb, I guess. At any rate, the arborist told me that the willow when they ground it up finally, or the stump and all, they don't mix it with the regular wood chips. And the reason is because they found they would put it in playgrounds, let's say, and they'd see the willow trees start popping up all over the place. So anyway, they don't mix the willow, whatever. I don't even know what they do with them. I didn't ask them, but at any rate, that's just an interesting side fact. The cypress mulch, by the way, is my favorite. I've used it over the years, and I just happen to like the way it looks, and it's easy to spread and so forth. The good thing about is this type of mulch versus the non-organic is that if it gets out into your lawn and you hit it with a lawnmower, you grind it up, right? As opposed to hitting some granite rocks and so forth and so on. And I learned, well, we'll get into that. The shredded tires, that's something relatively new. And they have used that, I think, on playgrounds as a alternative to some of the other things, whatever they used to use, probably the wood chips. And the only thing is, I think it can be detrimental to the environment. It's you know, whatever it, when it, I don't know how it breaks down, but it's something I wouldn't use in my garden. And I know some of the communities use it for that purpose, where it's a public type thing. The other stone materials, which would be non-organic. The first one that I think everybody sees is the white granite rocks. And those are very attractive. In fact, my neighbor across the street put them in. He was new, I think their first house. My first house back in the 70s, I put granite stones everywhere, you know, oh, it was great, you know, and so forth. Well, until I started hitting with the lawnmower. And of course, my kids were real small, throwing them, you know, at each other or whatever. And so, you know, I made a decision, I don't want these anymore. Well, another big problem is, what do you do with them? You have let's say a ton of these granite rocks. I mean, you have to get rid of them someplace. So that's another consideration. I mean, people may like those, but that is a consideration. You change your mind. Also, pebbles. Those are usually from rivers and oceanside and around, and they're very attractive. Those, you see a lot of those, I think, in ponds people have in their backyard, the koi ponds and so forth. So, but those are another alternative. And the last is the lava rocks. I have out in the front of my house, and I have an arborvitae, and it's been there ever since I bought the house in 77. So I have added to it. But lava rocks are porous, and they come in reds and black and red, and not a huge variety of colors. But one thing about them, they're easy, and you hit them with the lawnmower and you grind them up and so forth. So you don't have that problem. And of course, if you're going to get rid of them, I guess, eventually. Anyway, mine have been there for over 40 years. So
we found that the brown pebbles we have a couple of dogs.
yeah.
They get stuck in their paws, and they bring them to the house.
Okay, well, all right, there you go. Yeah, there you go. These are comments that I made initially. Again, it's a simple way of keeping the moisture and the weeds to a minimum. You can apply a layer or refresh what you have down by applying a couple 3 inches of thing. And the mulch volcano, one of our members, I think, actually coined this phrase. There she is. Take a bow. The mulch volcano is when you pile up mulch around tree trunks. Correct, Kathleen? Okay. Well, it was worth a call to the city, right? Okay. At any rate, and gardens, let's see, in the past, you can add layers to it. I do want to make one word of caution. We use this cypress mulch around our house, and I put it around the shrubs, evergreens, in the front of the house. And I had, 2-3 inches of this stuff. And every year I get more, and it looks nice when you put it out. It looks very fresh, and it is attractive. The only problem is, over the years, this starts to deteriorate, break down, and you can get ants and other pests that can get into your foundation. So my wife, Regina, one thing she does every year, we buy Baraxo, the laundry detergent or whatever it is, whitener. And she goes around and sprinkles it all around the foundation of the house every year. So maybe even a couple times, actually. So, but your mulch around the foundation can breed pests. It's possible, certainly. Yes.
Peat moss and mulch. The peat moss helps keep moisture on top of the soil.
I've always used, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. I've always used peat moss. I put it in my flower beds because what it does, it helps aerate the soil.
How
The
about
so-
grass?
Pardon me?
For growing grass, like big and, okay, we have a couple dogs that leave, they usually
Mhm.
leave like brown patches of
Right.
grass. How do you, what do you throw on top of
I don't know. I'll be honest with you. We always had a real small dog, a little dog. She just ran around. But no, I don't know how to answer that actually. Pete? Yeah. Okay, we'll try to do something. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. The last part of this is the weeds. The broadleaf leaves or weeds are probably the most common. Our friends, the dandelions, we all know those, right? And also the thistle down below, the dandelions. The dandelions, I think everybody has them. The biggest problem is you can get rid of them, I guess, by cutting them out when you're young and able to bend down and crawl along the grass and all that. But you can have them, you can get a service to do this too. I'm not supposed to go further on that, but at any rate, also another type of weed is the vines. And the vines, the creeping Charlie probably is the most infamous because it is really an insidious weed. And it's a viney thing. And right now they're blooming, little purple flowers. Are we all familiar with these? Well, they'll get in your grass, and then of course they get into your flower beds. And they are very difficult to get rid of. Okay. I guess pulling them out by hand is one way, or you can get a service to take care of it. Chickweed is another, similar, got little round leaves, and it is again kind of a insidious type thing. It gets into your lawns and flower beds. One other thing that's not on here is the crabgrass, which I think we're all familiar with that. Very rough, tough type weed or grass that grows in various places in your lawn too, by the way. So at any rate, a couple more comments on dandelions and thistle. Our creeping Charlie, our friend, and another picture of my garden. Okay.
it? Is chickweed,
Oh, yes, of course, 2 or 3 times.
is chickweed the same as clover?
No. Well, clover is green. As my wife one time told one of these companies, the weed man that came around and all that, and she says, well, clover's green.
We get big patch.
Well, if you like clover, if you don't like it, then you have to do something with it, but okay.
Hello, my name is Joan, and that is not my garden. I'm going to talk about watering and a few other things. Thank you.
People like you.
Early in the morning is the best time to water. If you can't water in the morning, then late afternoon or early evening will be fine. Water at the base of the plant, especially tomatoes. Try not to get the leaves wet. You may invite problems such as leaves turning brown or brown spots on the leaves. Some plants require more watering than others. Always check the soil, especially in very hot or dry weather. Containers need to be watered more often. They must have drainage holes. Most plants do not do well with wet feet. Once the water comes out the bottom of the container, they've had enough water. If you use soaker hoses or a drip method, use a timer for more timely watering. Inconsistent watering can lead to many problems, such as development of plant, reduced blossoms, and not doing well in general. It can also cause yellowing of leaves. And now we come to critters in your garden. The best deterrent for rabbits are raised garden beds or large containers. You can also use chicken wire fence around your garden beds. But make sure there are no holes for those little bunnies to enter your vegetable or flower garden. They will devour your young plants in a very short time. If chipmunks are your problem, sprinkle peppercorns around the plants. And there are other remedies. There are other remedies to keep rabbits away from munching on your flowers and veggies. I have used the following in an effort to keep them away. Plant small marigold flowers around the edge of your flower garden. You can also plant garlic in between your plants. Shaved Irish Spring soap scattered around your plants. Hot cayenne pepper, mothballs if you can find them. When it rains, you would have to reapply the soap and the pepper. Squirrels are another nuisance. Let's see. You can try using strips of aluminum foil, pie plates, or cayenne pepper. They also like to dig up your newly planted bulbs. So place chicken wire around the area, cover with a little soil. They won't be able to dig in through the wire. Squirrels do not like daffodil, hyacinth, crocus, or allium bulbs. There are many pests that like to feast on your flowers and veggies. We will cover some of the most common ones. Japanese beetles feed on many plants. They can destroy your flowers in a very short time. So fill a milk jug halfway with soapy water. Make sure the top is big enough for the beetle to enter. Add a cup of apple cider vinegar and a little sugar if you want. Place on the ground. The beetles will be attracted by the solution. Fly into it and drown. If they don't fly in, you can pick them off by hand. Wear gloves. Use the solution for fertilizer. That's what I did. Why waste it? Slugs. Spray. Slugs. Spread crushed egg cells around the plant. Or put a little beer in a shallow container. Slugs like beer. And with the price of eggs these days, you might be better off buying a 6-pack of beer. Diseases in your garden. Oh, went too far. Powdery mildew. Use a mixture of baking soda, peroxide, and dish soap, 1 or 2 tablespoons to a gallon of water. Using a spray bottle, spray from the bottom up. Do not spray the flowers. Use twice a week to get rid of the mildew. Good luck and happy gardening.
Go back on slide. Oh. Bring one flag, take a picture of it.
Sure.
Here you go.
Okay.
Good job, John.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Now it's time for your questions, and we'll try to take one at a time, and I'll try to repeat the answer so everybody can hear. All right, in the lavender.
Public
garden's already there, but it's got lovely weeds. there. And I'm not ever sure that I know what the weed does. Is there a recommended app or something that can help you identify?
I PlantNet, Kathy says.
Flowers, so you deep and then, it's a dandelion. It looks-
Right.
Yeah.
Also, if you have an iPhone, if you take a picture of it, and then there's a little eye with the circle around it, you can click that. Sometimes it will identify it, sometimes not.
Yeah. Other questions? Yes.
Flower. Yep. So we've been for like waiting after all. But
Have you gone through one season so far? Okay, and you didn't prune the first time? I would leave it until after the second one. I would not do it because if it is going into a second bloom, it's already making its flowers. So wait until the second bloom.
Good question. Yes.
Big lot of stone. And so I keep telling him we need more black dirt. But I go to the store and there's aisles and aisles, and it's all have things added and some don't. What would you?
You're talking about the soil. You want to know what kind of soil?
First, I would take those stones and put them in. I have a sifter that I use for my compost. And I had an area, the people that owned our house had a dog run. And all they did was throw all these pebbles all over. And that was the dog's section. And I had to take that's all those stones. I put them in my composter sifter and got all the soil out. It took me forever, but that is the only way I got to be able to plant. And then after that, you'd either put peat moss in there or compost or something or some kind of amendment to the soil, but you really need to get rid of those stones. Trust me.
I had the same thing at my house. I spent many hours digging stones out. All right. Did I see a hand over here?
Take down those plants outside because I saw some white onion that come out. So I tried to take it out each one down from the root. So is that a good thing?
Yes. Yes. Was there a garden there before? No. Well, onions will move themselves from place to place. Big white bulb.
And it's a little white bulb, but it doesn't smell like an onion. And it comes up in the spring and it just goes away by itself.
Okay, because it's getting like this much bigger.
That tall? Ooh.
So I cut it out, but I'm taking out each and every one. Now it's just only this much left, but it takes like hours to take it.
So, anybody else want to? You can always take a plant into Pesci's and show it to them, and they will help you. You know, what is this kind of thing?
kind of put the dirt in and then the water and then wait for a couple of days before I plant or then everyone?
You can do it on the same day, but if the plant has been indoors, you need to put it out gradually. If you just put it out in the sun, it's not going to tolerate that very well. So put it out in a container for a day or two, or start with a few hours. And then it won't, after a few days, it'll be acclimated. But no, you can go ahead and plant. Yes, ma'am. Okay, anybody have shady? Boxwood.
Up behind my abandoned windows, because of the trees in the morning, they don't get any sun. And then once the and they've been there probably 17, 18 years. Really? Yeah. You don't know what kind of box? We have to read the labels. I wanted to buy some for window box. And some of them would grow up to 6 to 8 feet, some were 4 to 6. And I wanted them for window boxes, so I don't want anything that big, so you have to read a label. What are
Arborvita? Tall, narrow. Yeah, I would go to a nursery and look and see what you want, read the tags and ask the people that work there. You did that?
So you'll get some nice flowering. Oh, sorry. You'll get some nice flowers. Again, you have to read those labels because hydrangea is a program all in itself, right?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Vigilia?
I also want to mention that we had a program a couple weeks ago all about shady plants. The
Yeah.
recording is on our YouTube page. Yeah, so if you just Google MPPL YouTube, it's called like Shady Characters, Nifty Plants for Shady Sites or something.
Yes.
Previous owners had planted a bunch of lily of the valley in because it is.
Yes. You just have to dig and dig and 5 years from now, you'll be digging, it'll come back. Just have to get the roots little by little till they're gone.
I wanted to, okay, we do not believe in Roundup, so that's off the thing. But we do make or use vinegar, especially the 30%, which is the brand.
Jacks.
Okay. These are organic weed killers. I use just 30% vinegar that I buy at Lowe's or one of the Home Depot. And then I put in some dish detergent and mineral salts, and that's what I use. I do not buy anything else, but that does work on Lily of the Valley because my neighbors behind me have it, and trust me, I don't want it everywhere.
But if you have a place where
In defense of Lily of the Valley here. Nancy. Borax can be a weed killer. Okay. All right. I'll take one more question and then we're going to do our raffle prizes. Yes, sir. Does Sweet William bloom before tulips? All right, we have some plants to give away.
I think.
No, I'm just gonna stay here so I can tell
Yeah,
people what they are.
The mulch center, it's on Milwaukee Avenue, just a little bit north of Deerfield Road. And that is Deerfield there. And they sell all kinds of mixtures, mulch mixtures with manure, with compost and so forth. You even, in the springtime, you smell it when the landscapers
There's one in there.
go around and take care of things, so.
Is that where they sell the leaf mold?
The what?
The leaf mold, the stuff that Pam gets?
I don't know.
I always use them, but I've never learned that.
Yeah. Anyway, that's a source. And you'll see that in the, they've got ads about all of them.